That wasn't what we expected. Sorry about that. Looks like the audio is not working on that clip. We tested it just before we went live. There you go. Anyway, welcome in, folks. Robert Imbriali here, and you can tell my voice is not normal. Still a little bit under the weather. But we're going to go through. We're going to have a lot of fun today. And have a great show planned for you. Bruce Poppy is not going to join us. We expected he'd be here, but he's still getting his feet back under him after the amazing trip that they took to North Carolina. Lewis and Bruce did that, and Lewis is back in good spirits. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he's got so much energy. And Lisa had sent me a text message yesterday and said, "Oh, you have to do something in Telegram. It needs to be fixed." And I didn't get around to it. I didn't see the message right away. And she goes, "Oh, Lewis already fixed it." And I told her, I said, "That guy's a genius when it comes to technology. I tell you, he's a genius. Let's bring him on. Mr. Genius, how are you today?"
You should only be telling the truth.
That's
What's
right.
going on? I'm not a tech genius. I don't want that moniker. No, no, no. Wow. Been busy. That's all I can say. Been busy.
Oh, yeah.
But it's I'm happy because I think we're doing some great work. When I say this, I said the Screw Big Up family and everybody involved, Renegade Media and Popular Viewpoint. And it needs to be done because I'm just frankly I'm not seeing many people, let's say within our community, stepping up. The good news is boots on the ground. They are. So I think we're going to treat this a little differently yesterday. So since I'm fresh back, maybe you just interview me and we'll give everybody an idea of what's actually going on, what I've been doing, and how important this work is.
Let's start a little bit back. Let's start at the Unity Tour and the moment you made the transition to helping hurricane relief, and what the difference was, because we were seeing a lot of apathy, right? That was kind of the theme during the Unity Tour. It's like, why aren't people stepping up? Why aren't the influencers showing up? Why all of that wasn't happening? There's just no one's doing anything, and it was so frustrating for all of us. And you know what? Hurricane Helene hitting Florida, hitting North Carolina, there needs to be a relief effort. All of a sudden, it seemed like you turned a massive corner and things completely shifted. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. That's a great analogy. So, as most people know, we were on a 50-city tour that we were doing in a little over a month. And we were, I think, on 39, if I'm correct, in Albany, New York. And it was just days after the tour, a few days after the hurricane hit, but really after it hit North Carolina. And to be honest with you, we were so busy, we're sleeping 3-4 hours a day and doing these tours and driving. We weren't getting the details that anybody else was getting about the hurricane. So I started to get text messages from several people of the devastation that they started to find in North Carolina, especially because it took them days to even get in there to help because the roads were so washed out. And then I decided when we heard about the devastation, then I went online and started going, wow, this is big. So it's very interesting. We were kind of in a bubble where we weren't quite up to date like everybody else was at the time. As soon as we really started getting the information and we assessed it, I assessed it, I guess you would say, within an hour and a half. I made a ton of phone calls, text messages, checked things out, and I called everybody out in the room while somebody was speaking and said, here's what we're going to do. You all feel good with this. The entire team immediately said, 100%, let's do this.
Yeah. And
that told me everything. It was so divine. At that moment, they didn't even hesitate. And the let's do this was, let's cut 10 stops off the trip. And our intention at the time was to go to North Carolina. The challenge is the more phone calls we got and the closer we got there, we found out we couldn't make a difference there because we couldn't even get in.
Right.
So we had people that we know doing great work, Gina and Doug, near Tampa. And so we're in contact with them. And so what we did is we changed course and said, let's go let's pass everything, go to Tampa and take care of business there. So then we did good work in Tampa. Gene and Doug are probably still doing work there, knowing them, but we did good work in Tampa, and then I started to get um, more messages of North Carolina's not what everybody says it is, or Tennessee. It's a lot worse, and there's a lot of lies being told.
And remember,
So
there was a week delay in all of that because we were getting nothing out of North Carolina because they were completely cut off up there, and there was no information coming out. And then I remember that Friday after the hurricane hit, all of a sudden it was everywhere, and I think that's when we all kind of like, oh, that's worse than we thought, and we're still to this day not being told the truth. I have people who are there on the ground, Lewis, and you're going to tell us your stories. The story is very different than what you're hearing in mass media.
it's 100. It's well, and different from you hearing from the political establishment also.
Yeah.
So right after, so we decided we were going to finish. We're going to do one more tour stop because we're already in Tampa. We did that. That was a great event. Right? There's a lot of people that didn't show up because of the hurricane, but it was a fabulous event and a lot of energy. Did good work there, and then our intention actually was that we were going to vacation a little bit. That was the
Yeah.
intention. I My wife planned it out like 6 months ago, and then we decided to invite Bruce and his lovely wife because they've worked so hard with us on the tours. But then Hurricane Milton starts heading that way, right? And we said, okay, what are we going to do now? So that was scramble time because then now people that we knew were scrambling out of the area, battening down the hatches. And we said, okay, we need to go. So we said, if this thing goes north, that's not going to make sense. So we decided to go south. So we went south because we couldn't get any flights out, right? We knew that. So we went south thinking that we maybe will get a flight out of south. We weren't able to do that. Therefore, we stayed there down in Miami during the storm. And while we were traveling and working there, I shifted all my focus to North Carolina because I was getting a lot of phone calls from there. And then we started raising funds and doing logistics, moving people all over the place, getting supplies certain places, making connections. And then with all the connections, the more people I talk to, I'm talking to firefighters, veterans, Navy SEALs, Marines, coordinators, business people. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And then we started connecting them with what they needed and where they needed it. So I guess I turned into kind of like a coordinator.
Yeah.
But building the relationships, I kept hearing the same story. And by the way, these people didn't know each other. Some of them did, but most of them didn't. The story was exactly the same. We're not seeing FEMA. We're getting zero help from the government. We're being completely ignored. Yet they're doing photo ops like they're doing something, and they're lying about everything. I mean, I'm on the phone with somebody. He says there's 200 people iced in a truck, while the governor is saying the questions. The more I asked, I kept hearing, "Are you going to come down here? Are you going to come down here? Are you going to come down here? We need somebody to tell the story." So I made another decision, and you have to understand, I was away 6 weeks. My wife was like, "You're finally home," and I said, "Honey, I got to go again." So I called you first. You were under the weather, and I was trying to get you and Bruce together, but at least I got Bruce to go, and Bruce was a huge asset. And then I called our beautiful friend on here, Master Baggy, and he took him 5 seconds to say yes. So myself,
What took
Eric,
him so long?
I know Eric, myself, and Bruce went down there and were blown away at what we were seeing, and even more so the stories that were being told from boots on the ground, real people. So out comes the documentary that I'm working on. The first part should be released this week, called Hurricane Hell. And then I think it's going to be a multi-part documentary because it's pretty deep, Robert, what I found when I was there.
Well, let's go into that story a little bit. Let's start maybe even chronologically. You got there. My guess it was. I'm thinking Thursday evening. You didn't go into any area then because I think you were at the hotel. We did the show with Ethan, and then I was not there. I was really not feeling well. Um, and then I think Friday morning you got boots on the ground and you got a first hand look of it. What was the first impression that you saw when you got in the area?
Was wow. So we saw a little bit driving, but then when we got to our staging area, it's at a, a BP gas station, and the sign on the BP is like this huge sign is tilted over like this.
Wow.
If you look right next to it, there's these motels that are part of them are completely washed away. I'm like gone, washed away, and so immediately I said, okay, we're in the thick of it, clearly. And we met our Go team that was there, and they're phenomenal. Zach was running the Go team, and these are all ex vets. You know what I mean? And he had things going. And Wendy was there, and Wendy's a firefighter currently, and she's did amazing work. And we started meeting all these other people. The dog guy that I set up with the help of Scott McKay was there. And so they took us, and I can tell you, we drove probably, I don't know, 100 yards and then made a turn. And the next thing you know, you see a house sitting on the side of the road. Well, that house was hundreds of hundreds of feet away from where it belonged. In fact, we saw one place that was 2.5 miles from where it originated.
Wow.
Yep. And then we saw cars completely smashed and filled with mud, and all these are still there. And the only thing that is not is they've cleared a path in the road for us to get to where we got. And the more we got there, you can see the speed and the height of the water traveling would blow your freaking mind in order for the damage to do this. Robert, I got to a place, and I'm going to put this video together here in the next day or two. I got to a place where there was a 4-lane highway bridge, fully built bridge like you would see anywhere.
An overpass, right? Mm-hmm.
Yep, overpass. It's at least, I would say, maybe a football field and a half long. I would say that's probably pretty reasonable. Mm-hmm. And about 120 feet of it, minimum, probably more than that, was lifted up. Now, this is all the concrete, lifted up in the water and moved down a few hundred feet down the river and twisted sideways.
Wow.
That's concrete. So the concrete didn't sink because the water was rushing so fast. And we're talking 20-foot bridge.
Yeah.
I heard reports that, the water got up to 24.3 feet. Yes, that would be high. I have evidence that it was at least 40 feet based on this 2-story house that was right on the river that I did a copious measurement myself. I go, okay, we got 8 feet here. I know the height of this, and I know the height of that. I'm like, wow. So the water hit up 2.5 feet on this guy's second story, not his first story, 2.5 feet on his second story. And he was raised way above the river and then way above the normal height of the river, which it was when we were down there. So that's crazy. And then I've heard, and we had evidence that in some places the wall of water may have even hit 100 feet, because when it's rushing down a mountain that's 7,000 foot tall, the tallest mountain in that area, it's rushing down a mountain, right? And then they opened up the dam, which it appears we can talk about that too. Yep. And that water, when it hits the turn, that's when all the damage comes. So it hits a bend and hits against the mountain, right? We saw 100 feet up, parts of the mountains are just carved out. So that water had to get up there, cut that, and then probably roll back down and even create more momentum, right? So in essence, I'm going to be gruesome, and this is a lady that we interviewed, and this is her quote. She says, "At this
nonprofits who said they had already delivered 10,000 body bags, and they're still requesting more."
They have. So there was a little message. I'm going to put this in a documentary that came out at the beginning that got suppressed, that there was 30,000 unaccounted for. That's a reasonable number, by the way. 30,000 unaccounted for. But and then shortly after that, they're like, but 99% of those will all show up, and it's not going to be an issue. No. And the reason why they're not going to show up is because this emergency evacuation order that the government put out never got to the people. Between Baggy, myself, and Bruce and some other people there, we talked to 50 or 60 people, to a man and woman. They said, we never got the message. Now, I'm not saying the government didn't put out the message, but what we did learn is that all communication went down before that message went out.
Yep.
So they never got it.
Yep.
They never got it. So and these are mountain people. These are rugged people. They've been through the hell and back before, right? They're not going to leave unless they're forced to leave, or unless they're told to leave. They're going to wait it out. Mm-hmm. So to say that they all evacuated is ludicrous. The government, the media knows it, and this is the type of things that we're going to disclose.
Well, you're looking at something that was beyond historic, right? And these guys have been through these hurricanes before. They've seen them. Like us out here with the wildfires. It's like, yeah, a lot of people will run from these things. It's like, we've been through so many of them. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, the wildfire is going to come. It's going to go. It'll pass us by. Whatever. We don't worry too much about it. But if it was like Lahaina, Maui, right, where cars in the parking lot, where there's no trees around everywhere, the steel melted, that's a different story. And I think that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at a very different story. So before some people are like, oh, why didn't they just get out? Well, number one, in a rural area, you don't have multiple cell towers. You have one. We have one in this area, one. And when it went down last year, we were 3 weeks with flaky cell phone service out here. And 2 years prior to that, there was none. There were no towers out here. We had no cell phone service. So when you look at an area like that, one tower goes out because they had apparently 10 days of rain. Everything was already saturated before the hurricane even arrived.
Oh, it gets better.
Oh, yeah.
So they had one of their first droughts on record prior to the 10 days of rain. And then the day of, but he's very clear about that, right? But the rainfall picked up in the hurricane. It increased. The wind died down in some cases, although I've got evidence that I'm going to be showing too of tornadoes. I see these 300-year-old trees, tons, thousands of them laying flat all in one direction in North Carolina, hills, because hurricanes were hitting them. I'm sorry, tornadoes.
Tornadoes, yeah. Tornadoes will be like a bulldozer go through it, make a straight line.
And it just goes. This is crazy. We went up in a helo, and we have all this evidence, and that's what we were there. We were evidence gathering. This is what we were doing and learning the stories. But what's amazing about this is the rainfall itself. Some people were saying, I haven't looked into the numbers, but they're saying 2 years worth of rainfall within 48 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that.
2 years within 48 hours. Can you imagine getting 30 inches of rain or more, or whatever it is, within that time? Oh, but here's where it gets better, or worse, I should say. So with all that rain, you're on peaks about 7,000 feet up, and that rain is flowing down. That's horrific in itself. What people really need to be talking about is there's a dam up there. The people that were managing the dam were asked to start a slow release right when the rain started because they saw the rain clouds were going to give a lot. According to what we're hearing, they didn't. They did a major release sometime between 1 and 3 in the morning.
Worst possible time. Everyone's asleep. Can't get them out of the way. Yeah.
They didn't even know. They didn't even know what hit them.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about. I saw, and I have pictures and evidence of this. So the beautiful thing is we have evidence of all this. So nothing's hearsay. I saw full semi-trailers turned up on end, and the sides, because of the force, completely ripped off of them.
Yeah.
Saw one almost on top of a house. I mean, this is massive speed of water. Nobody could survive that.
That's what people were saying. It's like, why couldn't you just swim? And it's like, if you looked at some of the
Oh,
vehicles, how the
God,
vehicles
no.
were smushed up. I mean, these are steel vehicles, and they were crunched up like you crunch up a piece of paper. I mean, just curl
You
into a.
can't
It
ride
can't.
the rapids. You can't
Can't.
ride the rapids in Snake River at 15 miles an hour. This could have got up to 70 or 80 miles an hour. And no, that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah. And
It
all
was
the
just
debris hitting you constantly from all different angles. You can't see it. The water's muddy.
Yeah, there are people on high ground that actually said it was a wall. They just saw this massive wall of water, which that would indicate that there was also a a spontaneous dam release too,
Yeah.
um, which would that would be an indication of that.
Yeah.
So we're
Millions of
digging into
gallons all
all,
at once. Exactly.
yeah, we're digging into all of that now. So let's go into this as if there's no conspiracy first, because I'd like to take the pragmatic approach, right? So we'll go into it and just look at it than are being reported. In fact, several sources that don't even know each other said it's probably over 10,000. Okay? They don't even know each other. So, first question, why would the government and the mainstream media lie about that? So, if they weren't lying about that, maybe we wouldn't even look into anything. But when we start to look into it, what do? Well, you find out that there is a massive lithium deposit that they've been trying to get to for years, and they can't get the residents out of Asheville. They're not willing to take a payoff to get out of there. So that's interesting. I actually brought home some mica. Mica is part of quartz, I believe, and it's used to build silicone chips. This is supposed to be the most valuable uh, load of mica in the world.
Wow.
Right
Wow.
there, it's so beautiful. It's clear. You can look right through it, right? And guess what? Oh, accidentally, tons of it just floated to the top. How easy is that for them to mine now,
Hmm.
right? The erosion took care of their business for them. So those are facts, by the way. These are not conjecture. Here's another fact. They did water testing. I don't know why anybody's not talking about this. So, potable drinking water or potable water is supposed to test at a 1. And then it goes higher, it gets dirtier and dirtier, right? This is testing at a 26.
Wow.
Cheers. Now, we can go into stories about dogs and animals and so on and so forth. Be the water runoff that you're talking about. It could be oil. It could be something else. Yes, people are getting sick. There is something called Carolina cough, and it looks like it could happen to be from a lot of these workers. So there is something going on. But of course, you and I talk about this all the time. It's more important to get it right than be first. So we're digging into this now. But regardless of that, there's enough meat on the bone here. You don't need Carolina Chernobyl uh, to see what they're doing here. I mean, you've got the water that's 26 times contaminated. Fact, right? Fact that the HRD dogs are hitting on cadavers all over the place, tons of them. That's a fact. A fact. The body count is at least 10 times higher than is being reported. Right? These are facts. A fact. The emergency evacuation order never got to the people. These are facts. You guys have enough facts right there. We don't need to spread other things
Hmm.
in order to try to sensationalize things. I think it's irresponsible. So we're working as hard as we can to get down to it. But it does look like they're 10 barrels. Now, I'll give you a story. You want a story? Uh, it appears there were semi trucks that would show up to the larger areas that had donations, fill them up, disappear, and then they were found where? On a nearby Indian reservation.
Hmm.
And guess what's on that Indian reservation? That's where the government is housing illegals. Can you imagine spending your time and money on supplies for hurricane victims, and you're paying for illegal immigrants? So this is the type of work that we're doing. And when this documentary hits this week, I think the first part's going to blow people away. The second and the third and the fourth, whatever it takes to get the story out, is going to be huge. What I don't want is I don't want people to forget about things that are going on now. I have absolute confidence that we, the people, are going to continue to step up with their donations and doing everything they can to help. You know why? Because the American spirit is huge right now, and you were getting at this at the beginning. I'm seeing us step up in a way you cannot imagine.
Right.
They're literally ignoring law enforcement, because law enforcement. Two guys I talked to were standing around with their thumbs in their vests.
I see that a lot. Yeah.
Doing fuck all. Mm-hmm. They're not doing anything.
Yep.
But we're getting dirty, digging in dirt, literally smelling the dirt to see if there could be a cadaver in there after the dog hit it, right? Where you can taste it in the back of your throat. I mean, this is what the volunteers are doing.
Wow.
With no concern for their own health. All they care about is bringing closure to people that need closure, right? So the American spirit is high and wonderful, and I'm going to detail that in the first part of this documentary, because it needs to be said. It's very, very, very important. So I'm excited about that, because I do believe, Robert, you nailed it. This was the catalyst. Everybody jumped in and they go, okay, this is where we can make a difference. And I can tell you, they're not interested in some government telling them what to do. By the way, this is conservatives and liberals together. We had a bunch of liberals in our team, about 28 people working with us, mm-hmm. and they're all on the same page. Government is useless. They're not going to help anything. The current government is doing nothing. They're lying. And yes, we need to get the story told. But you know what we weren't doing when we were there? We weren't talking politics.
Correct.
We were talking the American spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And universally, that is something that can really work for us to our advantage and bring people together. And I want to praise President Trump again for bringing attention to this. Today, I'm happy to say that President Trump was literally standing in the exact same place I stood yesterday when I was doing interviews with people.
Wow.
And he was talking about the same people that I met yesterday. Many of them were at his conference. He's bringing attention to this when we're 3 weeks into it. That should tell you everything you need to know. And I was very proud of him and happy to see that he said, I don't see the North Carolina governor doing anything. He says, I see the Georgia governor doing something, but I don't see the governor here, which is true. We need him to step up as the leader in this case and keep bringing attention to this, because these families need to get their loved ones home to them, or at least identified. So that's we're working. It's not fun, guys. It's the rebuild. The rebuild is ongoing, and I honestly believe they're rebuilding over bodies, and that is not hyperbole. That's what it feels like they're doing right now, because we know where we got all these dog hits, and where there's all these dog hits around. From what we're hearing, they're building in the same areas. It's almost like they're just, okay, we're done, right? It's disgusting. But we, the people, have got it, and that's the beautiful thing. In fact, I can say, guys, based on the Screw Big Gov efforts, I was just talking today to somebody, and it looks like we have enough new money coming in that I will be funding 2 more weeks of 6 HRD dogs, the housing for them, and some food for the these, I call them first responders, but I call them the best responders also. So thank you guys for the donations. We're working really hard to put your money into the right places. Currently, you can go to unitytour.us. The Amazon idea really worked out for them, by the way. So if you go there, we re-updated the list. You can send Amazon right to a new address that we put on there, and it goes directly to them. And so the operations are good. The operations are working so good. I think this is going to be part of Freedom in Action in the future, because We can develop a network and have it organized in a way that there's no way the most effective government will never be as effective as we are, at least in the short run, because there's so much red tape that they have to hop through in order to save a life.
Yeah, and I encourage everyone documentary drops and more things that are going on there. Screwbiggov.com, very good to stay in touch there. We've had long conversations about the censorship and the challenge with reaching our audience, even on Rumble. And you want to follow me, just make sure you go over to renegademedia.tv. And you can follow us on Telegram at Renegade Media as well. We keep that site up to date. A lot of stuff going on. We are looking at I just look at everything that's going on in North Carolina. All I can do is shake my head. I remember, Lewis, 9/11, right? They
Robert,
started.
real quick, and
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just don't want to change subjects because you just hit on something very important people need to know. Robert, and myself right now are attacked at a level that I think you do not even can conceive. YouTube just found a couple of days ago some weird loophole in their guidelines where in essence they permanently banned me on YouTube without permanently banning me on YouTube. So I just got a notice of 2 videos that they just took down. By the way, we're not even putting anything on YouTube that should raise any red flags. If anything, we're just sending them to other websites,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
2 videos just got banned, and their reason was, get this, the reason is I'm trying to circumvent their system because I'm posting videos from somebody that was previously banned. Okay, that person that was previously banned was me. So now they put me in a loop where, in essence, I can never post anything on YouTube with me personally in it. So Lisa just told me today that TikTok is going hog wild right now. So that's going to be an issue. Instagram is an issue. We never get any traction on Facebook. We just keep posting them back up there.
Right.
That's an issue. You guys can already know what's Rumble. I've gotten several reports over the last few weeks that people are being unsubscribed from Rumble. So if you're watching Rumble right now, just please check your subscription and resubscribe. We have to play these games, guys. It's okay. We have a strategy behind it. Something I've just put on X is kind of going a little bit viral right now. So we have a strategy that we're working on. Robert and I will detail this together a little bit later, but we have a way that we're going to get past all this suppression. So don't get down. I just want you guys to know, though, we need your help. We must get your help. If you believe our message is true and authentic and helpful, please do everything to forward this stuff all over the place, because I'm telling you, they are coming hard after us right now. And I get it. Here, you want to know why they're coming hard after us? Let me just give you this one scenario.
Jersey to the dump over there, and they never were recovered.
It's true.
It's really, and that's what seems to be going on here to cover up the actual damage. And who knows, maybe the number was higher than the 2,700 that we had during 9/11. Maybe the number was much bigger than that. We don't know. We didn't have the infrastructure that we have now. And Bruce and I were having this conversation. He was driving home last night, so we had a long talk, about an hour plus on the phone, and we're talking about how this world that we play in now is the media didn't exist back at 9/11, so we didn't know. And we would never have suspected, I think back then, we were naive, all of us were, that the government would have done what they did. And they wouldn't cover it up. Why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. We're the most transparent, open government ever. So they told us. And here we are.
Yeah. Somebody's asking, do we have some kind of list of the missing? Yeah, there's several lists out there, and they're doing an overlay right now just to make sure they extract them. The original list was 30,000, by the way. And interesting enough, the government put out a list of like 126, and within a week, that same list came out, and all of it said next to it was found. So give me a break.
Yeah,
it's disgusting. Yeah. The fact that people are willingly pushing a false narrative is the height of evil.
Well, what's got me concerned, Lewis, collected and put in bags, they're not being counted, right? So where are they going? What's happening with them when they do retrieve them? They put them in a body bag, they ship them off to, and you don't hear anything more because the count should be going up and it's not,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know?
Of course, the count would go up. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So what we're having trouble now is getting enough excavation crews because there's a bunch of flags out there. The dogs have hundreds of hits right now where flags are saying that this is where you're going to find something, human remains. Um, but I believe as of now, I'm only aware of two full excavation teams. Well,
Wow.
let's say three. Two of them are on with one group that I was working with, and the other one is down the road a bit. So uh, we have to work on that because I have no doubt that the government will rebuild the infrastructure right on top of these people, and you'll never see them again.
Yep. That's what I'm afraid is happening. We're starting to see that, they're bulldozing everything and trying to quote unquote clean it up before you do. And, I think truthfully, if you had looked at those videos and you see how big the debris piles were that were moving, people could be buried 20 feet down. You may not ever be able to recover everybody.
So there's some debris piles near, I believe it's called Green Mountain, which we flew over, that are as tall as, get this, 70 to 80 feet high.
Whoa. Whoa.
Yep, just because of the force of the water
Yeah.
building those up as high as they can. So this is well, think about it. They took a semi truck and put it on top of a house. I mean, if if that tells you anything,
Yeah.
that's a good visual for people to think about right there. So this is a big deal. I think everybody should report it. I would hope that everybody watching this, I would hope just take this, click share, and send it somewhere, because I can tell you one thing: there's more truth said in the last 45 minutes here than there has been and I say truth, not this three-ring circus of made up shit, right? I'm saying truth. There's more truth said here in the last 45 minutes than virtually all over X combined at the moment. I will say, there are some good people doing some good work on X. And I know they're trying to do it on Facebook, and I keep hearing they're getting knocked off. But there are some good people doing some work. It's not just Robert and I and Bruce and Eric. And by the way, just props to Bruce and Eric. Bruce is a madman. He's in there he's just digging in the dirt, doing everything he possibly can. And Eric was a great support team. Everything we needed, Eric was there for us. So want to give them both props. They're just awesome human beings. And this is the type of character we saw. So the untold story that I'm going to tell, because they deserve it, is the we the people are the heroes.
Yeah. No question.
And it's a beautiful and humbling thing to see, because you know me, Robert, I've been screaming for 5 years that we the people are the plan, and you would not believe how many people saw me with that shirt and they were like breaking down in tears and agreeing with it. And that shirt was the most impactful. I don't even know if it's up on our website yet. But check
It
back
needs to be. Yeah, it does need to be there.
I'll double check, because
Okay.
and it's not about sales, guys. It's just that I literally had a guy tell me, I said, "What can we give you?" He goes, "Can you just give me a bunch of shirts? I'll sell them to get donations, because this is what people love around here." I got to tell you, it's a humbling experience. It really is.
Yeah, and we have to keep in mind how quickly this thing is. They're attempting to sweep it under the rug, and it's people like us. And there's a lot of good reports coming out on X. I've got a couple of people on Facebook who are posting and letting me know what's happening there. And it's just there's so much to absorb, and it's so to the point where it's unbelievable that it just fries your brain cells. I mean, you start look at this and you go, this can't be. This is not a hurricane. This is not natural. There's nothing here that you could tick off and say, oh, it's organic, it's natural, it's whatever, all of it. SG and Anna and I, when we had the interview, that's pretty much the major part of our conversation. And that video's gone mega viral too. I think we had 46,000 people watch it already because he really laid it out and goes back to, the 50s that he could track. And it's probably even before then where they were trying to manipulate and steer hurricanes. You just look at
which they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not even conjecture anymore.
Yeah, and
Right.
you look at this, and you say, you look at the Milton. As soon as it hit the coast of Florida, the eye fell apart. The eye wall just collapsed immediately.
Yep.
It was 10 feet on shore, and the eye wall had already collapsed. What in the world did this one go 800 miles and have more power over North Carolina than it did when it came ashore in Florida? Want to make any
It's great.
sense?
No, it's crazy.
So he explained, he said how they superheat the atmosphere above because a hurricane needs heat and humidity to grow. And he was talking about how the HARP systems and stuff, they superheat the atmosphere, in this case above, because normally a hurricane's fed from below, right? It's fed from the ocean. The ocean's 85 degrees, lots of
How do they
humidity.
do that exactly?
They have their HARP technology. It looked like it was microwave of some sort.
Yeah, I was wondering how. I know about HARP. I just wonder. I didn't know how they can get above. I guess they just probably target an area.
Right.
You think there's anything to the lasers that people said they were seeing targeting the
Yeah, I
hurricanes?
think the lasers are for steering, and the microwave is for intensifying. I think there's two different technologies at work here.
That could make sense because I
Yeah.
told you about the track of Milton was manufactured. Yeah,
Hurricanes don't do that.
it wasn't natural at
What?
all.
What is it, Nadine now that's making a full U-turn? I haven't seen that recently. Yeah, we laugh
Maybe it's
about it, but
gonna.
the weather warfare, and Fulford has been talking about that in his newsletter now for weeks, and how they're using it. They're trying to get their agenda across and scare everyone back. And apparently, there's massive flooding also in Saudi Arabia, and now Saudi Arabia apparently is backing out of BRICS because of warfare. How do you get flooding in a desert? You look at these things, you go, this doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. And Brazil now has also been threatened, and they're thinking, apparently, according to what Fulford is reporting, they're thinking of not attending the BRICS conference that's coming up this week in Russia, which is supposed to be a big deal. Actually, bigger, some people say, or Russia's saying anyway, bigger than the U.S. elections.
Well, how easy is it if you think about it? It's very very easy. You throw two hurricanes at the United States, which is supposed to be the superpower,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you call over to Brazil and Saudi and said, "Okay, we do this. Do you want to be hit with the same thing?" Back out of BRICS.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty simple.
It's
If
powerful.
and of course this is speculation, but here's what's not speculation anymore. Weather manipulation is a real thing. It's proven. It's science.
Look up the
You know,
patents. There's a list of patents of weather
yeah.
modification. There's so much of it. Yeah.
Or ask yourself why did Tennessee ban chemtrails if they don't
They
exist?
don't exist. Exactly.
Yeah. Hello.
They're here. We look up at the sky here every day. The chemtrails are everywhere. It's chemtrail season. That's what we call it. Chemtrail season here.
It is. It is.
I'll tell you what is weather manipulation. This is just before we went live. This is our temperature thing here in the house. 92 degrees outside. Look at that. And look at the humidity level. 17%. Guys, it is October 21st. And there's a wildfire, about 10 miles from here now. So Santa Ana winds. We know it gets a little bit hot. It gets a little bit dry. I have just, my nose is just, it feels like it's so dry. It feels like it's going to fall off. It's like, this is what it's like to be in Las Vegas. I'm okay with that. But we don't normally see that here, which is interesting. So it just feels like none of the weather's normal. I was talking to one of the farmers. He came by this morning to look at our grove and pick some figs and stuff. And I was chatting with him, and he goes, I don't understand this weather. I've been doing this for 50 years. Never seen anything like this.
Well, it'll wake people up, won't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting. You mentioned something earlier, and I, excuse me, I think it's very, very important. And I've dealt with this with first responders before. one thing when Zach, who's a great guy, I hope people get to meet him. I'm sure he'll be inside of the documentary. Was managing the team there,
Hmm.
and we were in Swinona. Hey, I said it right. We were in Swinona, North Carolina, and I'm going to tell you one of the things he said at the end. He goes, "Guys, we're going to keep it light. We're gonna laugh, and we're gonna joke a lot, right?" People say that's crazy. No, no, no. That's a coping skill
It's
that
critical.
is
Yeah.
epic.
Hmm.
That is a coping skill that I can tell you firsthand. I've had these conversations and I've dealt with this myself. That is embedded in first responders and special forces. That's embedded in them. It is critical that we keep our vibration high during this. It is absolutely muy importante.
Yeah. Because if you
It is
go down
very
emotionally, you're useless to the team. Honestly.
right.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I worked with a coroner on there that was such a sweetheart, so passionate. She was from South Carolina, um, and of course, not North Carolina. She's from South Carolina, working in North Carolina, trying to and volunteering. All of these are volunteer people sleeping in tents and sleeping bags, and I try to get them some housing for a few of them, but it's crazy, right? But here's what I can tell you is her. You would think a person wouldn't want to find a body. She was the opposite. She was heartbroken when we were digging and not finding a body because
Mm.
that's she just said that's one less person that she can tell somebody, here, you can have closure now.
Right.
These people are incredible people, and this is why I say the American spirit is alive and well, folks. And if anything good came out of this craziness, is people are now saying, no, 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 we don't need you, big gov.
Yep.
And I think that's very important.
Well, that's the silver lining. We're always looking for that. So every event, right? Every event that can be looked at as horrible always has a silver lining. Always. There's always something. Got to look for it, but it's always there. There's always a lesson to be learned. There's always something else. And we're seeing, like Bruce was talking about this yesterday too. He's like, I'm so done relying on this government in any respect. It's like they're totally, totally incompetent, totally useless, and we send so much money that their way. We had a picnic for the neighborhood here yesterday. About 100 and some odd people showed up. I had some great conversations with them. One lady, Lewis, just was. I walked in, and she came running up to me and Robert gave me a big hug and everything. And she's like, I was asking the new owners of the gourd farm because they put on the picnic, where's Robert Renegade Media? Is he coming? Is he coming? Is he coming? Like, yeah, he's supposed to be here. And I came there and she just put her arms around me and said, I love what you guys are doing. You're making an impact. And it's like, I'm with you. I can't watch on Rumble all the time because, well, there's too many ads and, the app fails a lot, but I know I'm with you. And not only that, Lewis, people who I know in that group were liberal. You couldn't talk to them. All of a sudden, yesterday, two of them identified themselves to me as, no, I'm independent now.
Ah, nice
Ooh.
transition.
Ooh.
Yes.
Not going all the way over. I get it. Independent
So
means, well, I
we
could
don't
vote
want
for
them to
either
go.
one.
Yeah, we don't want them to be Republican anyways. Just stay independent.
Right.
We got to get rid of the party thought. That's what I call it.
Yep.
So that's beautiful. That's real good.
I had another chat with a fellow who's a CPA, and I said, how's business? Well, it's up and down, blah, blah, blah. Great. And I said, the best we can hope for is we abolish the IRS. Oh, that'll never happen. Oh, I said, really? I said, how did the United States government make their money before 1913, before the income tax was instituted? And by the way, it was instituted under the guise that it was going to be, what's the key word? Temporary.
Always. Yeah.
Right? It's more than 100 years. That's a long temporary. So I
That's
said,
a
how'd the
long time.
government make their money back then? And he goes, I don't know. I said, he's a CPA. You think you would know, but okay, he doesn't know. I said, it was all tariffs. Anything we imported, these countries had to pay tariffs on it. And apparently, from what we are reading, the government was bringing in so much money, they had to create a commission on what to do with all the money. And there was no income tax. And somebody got the bright idea, hey, let's lower the tariffs on imports so prices get a little bit cheaper and we'll just tax the citizenry. And that's the way it's been ever since. Now, what you've heard is Trump is saying, hey, we should go back to tariffs and to abolish income tax.
Right.
So he was dumbfounded. Look in his face. He was just like, that's a good idea. I said, are you going to vote for Trump? He's like, well, that sounds like a really good idea. I'm like, yeah. He said, so he says that most people pay roughly 50% of their income in taxes. When you take all the different taxes you got to pay,
Right,
it's
yeah.
roughly 50% of your income. And I said, imagine having that 50% back. You've doubled your income. Prices would go higher because now there are tariffs on products coming in from overseas. But not crazy higher, just a little bit higher. No problem. That's your tax, right? And you'd have more money to spend, more discretionary income, more vacations you could take. Wouldn't that propel the economy? And he goes, yeah, it would. They're crazy hot economy. I'm like, there you go. That's all we need.
That's right.
Step forward.
Absolutely agree.
So I was having those conversations. We also started a group on Facebook for the community, and we have people now joining in there. And it is specifically to be like a neighborhood watch. It's not meant to talk politics or anything. And just, hey, we're seeing something over here. Who are these people? You know, that kind of thing. It's like, what's going on? And, you know, get together if we need to. Everybody out here is sufficiently armed from ammo. All sold out, has been for weeks. And as soon as it comes in, it's gone. So people are hoarding right now. And you know, can't blame them. You know, we look at what's going on already. It's kind of crazy. Are you ready to shift the conversation a little bit to elections? Because I know that's the other big story.
Yeah, let's do that. Right before we do, Miss Beth, I hear what you're saying about holding a prayer a few times a day. I think it's a great idea. Why don't you put that prayer together and send it over to me? If I hope you don't mind if I have to adapt it, because sometimes I adapt it for the whole group.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so secular. If you can send that over to me, I'll put it on my Telegram and I'll see if we can get people around it. It's a great idea. Thank you very much.
And going to take a quick commercial break here. Let's see. It's not coming up. What is it at this program? I want to thank Matt. Matt did a lot for the Unity Tour to keep that rolling, and he's stepped up in ways we could not begin to imagine. So if you're still thinking about getting gold and silver, it's not too late before the big crash. Give him a call, 480-717-9081, or reach him online, veritymetals.com. You can actually set up on his website now an appointment with him, so you know he'll be there. When you call him, it's not like, gee, I'm getting voicemail, that kind of thing. So, great guy to talk to, and I'll answer all of your questions. All right, elections. That's the other kind of big story, if you will, going on, and it's hard to ignore it. It was on the minds of everyone. And Lewis, the feeling I got speaking to many people yesterday in this group, everyone's on pause right now. I got a cough. Hang on. You take it over for a minute.
Is there really an election? I didn't even hear about this. Where is that going to happen at? Oh, that November 1st thing. Remember November. So while Robert's dying in the background, I mean, the video I'm looking at is a lot more fun than looking at me right now. Poor Robert. I'm gonna narrate. He's turning a whole shade of red. That's a beautiful shade of red. It contrasts with his hair. I think it's very holiday season like. But anyways, with November 5th coming up, my take on this is I don't, regardless of who wins this election, and by the way, I'm surprised there's even going to be an election, because I was the guy saying I don't think there's going to be an election. But regardless of who wins the election,
that's still in play, just so you know.
Okay, yeah, I would not doubt that they're going to find a way to take care of it.
So there's good news, and then we'll get into the not so good news, shall we say? The good news is Donald Trump was in North Carolina and watched his press conference live this morning. Excuse me for having some challenges here, but geez, and we'll get through this.
No, that's all right. While you're taking care of business, Donald Trump was there today on boots on the ground, and I think it's very, very telling, because he's calling attention to the fact that there is still something going on in that part of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. I think it's telling that he did that. So I think people should really pay attention to that, because he's literally letting us know, don't give up. And to have president or former president go into a disaster area 3 weeks later, they generally only do that to pat themselves on the back when there's a rebuilding effort going on, not when they're bringing out and exposing and saying, hey, there's still work to be done. So I think it's very important that he did that. So I hope that motivates people to help out.
So early voting is on, right? In many states, there's early voting happening.
That's
People
right.
are voting on machines. And when they do that, do you think it's possible that they're getting a feel for which way the election's going at this point? Clearly. Clearly, anybody could look at any of these tabulators, any of these
They
machines.
being the Dominion
Hmm.
people that are, yeah,
Yeah.
which we're not allowed to talk about Dominion because they're going to come after us now.
Yep. So
Yes.
they have a feel for what's going on. Donald Trump made mention of this today. And he said, and I quote, early returns are looking great. What I'm hearing, it's about 60-30. 60% for Trump, 30% for Harris. Do you think they want this election to
Where's
go
the other
off?
10%? Where's the other 10%?
Uh, who knows? It
But
was
it's still double.
63, something like that, 39. It was, yeah, there was some
Yeah.
number.
We predicted double, so that makes sense.
Yeah, it's somewhere in that range. And you have to assume that they don't want this happening. And I've been on this all weekend. Those of you who have been following Renegade Media on Telegram, I apologize. I posted about 100 articles this weekend. It was a post storm. Well, I was in bed most of the time, so I did what I could, posting a lot of stuff on this and doing a lot of digging and looking at it. They don't want this election to come off because it is almost to the point where it's going to be very difficult for them to steal it. Now, the media is clearly on the side of Harris and saying, oh, the polls are close and this is going to be a tight race and yada, 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 and all the rest of this stuff. So we encourage you to go out and vote. Certainly that's something you want to do. Can we overwhelm the system? I'm not convinced of that. Now, the story that we're hearing is there are massive solar flares coming, and on election day, it's going to wipe out the entire internet. Ooh, ooh, how convenient is that?
Well, it won't matter because Dominion's not connected to the internet.
That's right. It won't matter. Yeah.
So it's fine if you believe them, right?
Yeah. Well, we
Wow.
don't because we know for sure they are. And, there's just so much of the, you look at that and you say, okay, so I'm still on the side of, hey, there isn't going to be an election in the way.
It could become a bloodbath, right?
Yeah.
And
On both
I
sides. Exactly.
and
Yeah.
I don't know if we want that. And this is where I say this is where I do believe that this is where the military should step in and take care of business
Yeah, then
because
we would be under martial law. And if you look at the Constitution has two very key words in it. It says well organized militia is what we should have.
right.
We have
And I
militia, we
don't
don't have well organized.
they're not well organized. And you'll have independent militia that says they're well organized, which I agree, but the reality is we're not organized on a national level
Correct.
because the deep state cabal has been circumventing that for about 60, 70 years.
Right.
Right from us doing that. I really feel good about our future, Robert. There's a couple things that really have gotten me lately. First, it was during the Truth Tour, about 5 or 6 people in their 20s, a couple that were in their teens.
Unity tour.
Unity Tour.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a few people in their 20s and a couple in their teens that they get it. And they get it to a level they're a lot more articulate and intelligent and well read than I am.
Damn it, they get it from TikTok. Believe it or not, that's where they're getting their news.
Wherever they get it.
Literally,
And
they're getting it from social media. Yeah, exactly.
but they're digging because they're repeating and they're like, and it's this, but they're coming to conclusions. It's not like they're parroting the narrative. Like you have a talk and they understand this is why this doesn't work, and this is why this and da 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 da. So next week, because of that, Robert and I are going to have a segment. So every day we're going to bring on one of these young folk that get it, and it's very, very exciting. So that's number one. That was exciting to know that the future looks a lot brighter than we think it does, right? Number two, when we saw starting in Florida, the American people stepping up after the Hurricane Helene, and then what I'm seeing in North Carolina and Tennessee, we've got this, guys. We've got this. People are done, and when they get it, they do not go back. That's one thing I'm learning about this, which is really interesting. Once awake and moving forward and understanding that we, the people, hold all the power and screw big gov, they're not backing down off of that. They're moving forward. So the good news about that is you don't have to worry about percentages, because even if it's 10% now, it'll soon be 12 and then 14 and then 18 and so on and so forth, because that's growing. And that's not the segment that's going to go away. I really have a true belief, and I've done the numbers. I think between 60 to 65% of the people are what I call neutral, which means they're influenced, good or bad, whichever way they're being pushed or pulled to.
Right.
Then you have a large percentage of good, and you have a very small percent of the evil that are very loud, right? The problem is the bullies tend to push the neutrals around. I see the neutrals are starting to pick a side now, and that side is good.
Yep.
So that should help you with your vibration. And I'm talking boots on the ground. I'm in constant communication, my family, my team, everybody. And I can tell you, things are going in the right direction. I'm so excited about the future.
Well, the learning here, if you look for another silver lining from the hurricanes, the learning is that when Americans come together, they can push back on the government. And you can see FEMA has literally retreated in many areas. They're hardly taking any action under the guise of, oh, we're afraid of being attacked. Well, you're not working with them, obviously, if you're afraid of being attacked. You're not part of this. You're against it. So, they're seeing now we can push back on these people. It's the boogeyman. It's like pulling the curtain back in The Wizard of Oz and realizing, oh, it's only this little guy. You know what I mean? And he's got all this magic around him that makes him look bigger than life, and he's not. And I think we're starting to find that out. And, the curtain's going to come back and the facade's going to fall, I think, pretty quickly. So whatever civil unrest we have to go through going forward, I really do believe it's going to be short-lived. And I believe by February, we're going to be clearly on the other side of this. And it's going to feel different. The world that we're living in is going to be different. And, our relationships are going to improve. And it's hard right now. I get it. I know a lot of people are in fear, and they get cataclysmic when they shut down when they're in fear. I get it. It's a little bit hard. We can't do that. We've got to make sure we remain connected at this point more than ever. And I think it's going to be so much easier because you're going to be able to spread your wings again on the other side of it. We've got to go through it. We've got to flush this toilet. We've got to get the crap out literally before we can get to the other side and get a fresh bowl of water. That's what we're looking for.
Yep.
That's a plumbing analogy, Lewis. I thought you'd like that, but who knows?
It's just beautiful.
See, we got to keep it light. It's been heavy. We're going to keep it a little bit light. Lighten it up a little bit.
Yes. So I think that about does it for us, doesn't it, today?
It certainly does. Let's see. We're going to be back tomorrow. I told Bruce that he can't make it today. He can come by tomorrow, because I'd like to have. He shared some things yesterday on our call. Just chatting that were really intense, and I really want him to share some of this stuff. And Lewis, give us not a timeline, because I know that's not right, but a feel for the documentary, the videos. And we apologize for not sharing the videos today. When you're in a situation like that where there's no connectivity, I know they've been struggling for the past 2 days to get the videos uploaded. Files 2 gig, 3 gig, 5 gig. It's like it takes a little while. So we're not quite there where you have instant video.
Yeah, so half of my day today was uploading videos. It's funny you'd say that.
Yep.
So the good news, I got all of them off of my plate. Eric's got just about all of them off his plate. I'm not quite sure if Bruce has all of his in yet. I have some more coming, but this week I think is reasonable. I don't even feel pressured to say this week, because part one will be, 15, 20 minutes. But it'll be extraordinarily impactful, and this I would hope people make it go viral, because it needs to go viral.
Yeah,
it really does.
It does. Brilliant. Well, a lot of people are very happy to know what you did over in North Carolina, and I for one, am proud of you for stepping up and getting into there. And boy, There's just a lot more to do. We're not done yet. All of us are going to be called into action in one way or another. It may just be support. Sometimes it's going to be financial. Sometimes it'll be emotional. Sometimes it'll be spiritual
Yeah.
through prayer or whatever. Just be ready, my friends. Just be prepared to be flexible, to be available. I always say be strong, but be flexible. You never want to be strong and brittle because you can get snapped in half. But if you're strong and flexible, you're undefeated. You can do a lot more. So that's why I encourage people to be that way. And like we did here with the community yesterday, we're starting to build more of a community structure here, which is important. And the neighbors are all on board, and they realize it could get rough. We're going to stick together. We'll get through it. And I think that's true of all of us here in this community.
Yep. And we've got this, guys. You can make a difference. Go to unitytour.us. Even if it's prayer, there's all these ideas on how you can make a difference. Just go to unitytour.us. God's got this. We've got this. I feel really, really good about the future, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Lewis. I appreciate you and all that you do. And we appreciate